Hello, my name is Rachel Nee, and this is my Let's Get Technical presentation. My technical term is geriatric nursing. The technical definition is geriatric nurses help elderly patients in the nursing field. These older adults are at greater risk of injuries and diseases like osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, and cancer. Geriatric nurses focus on preventative care because these diseases occur more often in the elderly. Technical definition continued. What do geriatric nurses do, you say? Geriatric nurses aid patients and their families, help them cope with certain medical conditions that develop later in life. This type of help may include referring the family to a counselor, medical plan advisor, and facilities that help families and patients cope with a certain disease that the elderly person may have. Geriatric nurses may also provide the family with specific definitions of the diseases located in pamphlets. These can be given out at hospitals and also at medical offices anywhere. Technical definition continued. Where do geriatric nurses work? As a geriatric nurse, you can work in nursing home, with home health care, hospitals, medical offices, anywhere really. Hospice facilities are 6 months and less of life left. These facilities take care of bedridden patients, those with impaired mental ability, and for patients who are in pain from various diseases like cancer and such. An example of a nursing home is Osprey Point Nursing Home, where I also work as a CNA. It's a great environment there. So an explanation of how I developed my technical definition. So to construct this document, I completed 4 steps, and I'll explain them. So number 1, I read and understood the instructions and wrote up a plan to keep me on track during the process. I also referred to Chapter 18 in the textbook. This was Chapter 18 focused on technical definition and how to define it in a Word document. Secondly, I then began gathering information concerning my technical term of geriatric nursing, and I got its definition, the purpose, and I also made sure I was citing my sources along the way so I wouldn't forget at the end to put a works cited in. I then put all the information together in a Word document according to APA standards, so the running head and everything like that. I gathered pictures at this point to add to my findings to give it a little something extra. And lastly, I went over my document and made any changes to it as needed. Spelling errors and formatting errors, definitely I have a lot, so that last step is really important. So moving on to the second document, the technical description. So for this technical description, I picked a instrument that geriatric nurses use mostly every day. This is a standard stethoscope, and what it is a listening device used in the medical field. It can be used to hear the internal sounds a human or animal body makes. It can be used in several places such as the back, upper chest, or lower chest. Technical description continued. Stethoscopes are used almost by everyone in the medical profession at one time or another. Some examples of people that use stethoscopes are doctors, geriatric nurses, certified nursing assistants like me, and nurse practitioners like I want to be one day. Stethoscopes are extremely useful, and they're used every day. Technical description continued. Although there are many colors of stethoscopes, they all conform to a specific design that includes 5 main characteristics. The 5 main characteristics are the earpieces, the tubing, the stem, the diaphragm, and the bell. In my presentation, you will see a picture attached of a stethoscope and all its parts. Technical description continued. So I'm going to explain to you all the pieces. Earpiece. The purpose of the earpiece is to be able to listen to the sounds that come from the diaphragm of the device. These 2 buds are usually made from rubber or silicone material that aids in blocking any unwanted sounds from outside the ear. The purpose of the stethoscope is to listen to sounds inside the body. So those earpieces are made of very specific material to block out any outer sounds, barking, TV, laughing, talking, etc. The tubing is the next part of the stethoscope. This part of the device is to maintain and transfer the frequency from the diaphragm to the earpieces. So this tubing is usually made of a flexible material so it can be, moved easily. This tubing can come in two different designs. Single tubing, which is, it just goes straight up, or dual lumen tubing, which transfers the sound more accurately, which goes straight up and continues out to give a more accurate sound from the diaphragm to the earpieces. Next on the stethoscope is the stem. This is a little small steel piece. The purpose of the steel or metal area on the device is to connect the tubing to the diaphragm. This stem also has a frequency tuner if the medical professional wishes to use it. So basically, the tuner is whether you want to listen through the diaphragm or through the bell. So it's the medical professional's choice which one they want to do. Okay, moving on. The next part of the technical description is the diaphragm of the stethoscope. This is known as a circular, large end piece of the device itself. This part of the device allows the medical professional to hear the higher frequency sounds from the area it's put on. So the diaphragm is the bigger one and it hears the higher sounds. Next is the bell. This part is known as the smaller circular end of the device, comes right after the diaphragm. This part of the device allows the medical professional to lower the frequency sounds from the area it's placed upon. So this is for lower sounds, breathing, such as that. Overall, a stethoscope contains a variety of important parts that allow it to listen and transfer the internal sounds of a patient's body to the medical professional's ears so that he or she can diagnose and treat the patient's medical condition. Explanation of the technical description. So to construct this document, I completed 4 steps, which are explained below. I read and understood the instructions and wrote up a plan to keep me on track during the process. I also referred to Chapter 19 in the textbook. I then began gathering information concerning my technical instrument, which is a stethoscope, and its definition, use, and purpose. I also made sure I was citing my sources along the way so I didn't forget. I then put all the information together in a Word document according to APA standards, and I gathered pictures at this point to amp up my document. Lastly, I went over and checked for impurities and whatever things I might have messed up. Moving along to the third document in this procedures. A geriatric nurse has many responsibilities that revolve around the care and well-being of their assigned patient. The procedures performed by a geriatric nurse are detailed and have many steps each small medical procedure. As a geriatric nurse, there are many broad goals that are kept in mind when treating geriatric patients, and a day on the job as a geriatric nurse could entail some objectives, and I'll tell you those below. You, as a geriatric nurse, you could be helping rehabilitate patients after injuries, physical therapy, helping them to walk, getting to and from the bathroom, bed, such like that. You could conduct routine checkups and screenings, develop patient care plans, administer medication, which is most frequent, assist with pain management, which is second most frequent, and bathing and bed sore prevention. Bed sore prevention is very important, and bathing goes along with it. Moving on. Procedures continued. So along with the procedures themselves, geriatric nurses also have to display certain characteristics when working in the medical field. Although vast in number and importance, some key characteristics to keep in mind as a nurse in the geriatric field are to be multifaceted. So you need to have many ways you can deal with things. You need to be structured so you can keep, your job details in order so you can go through the day organized. Patient, definitely. You need to be patient with your patients because they are elderly and they can be very confused at times. So being patient is really a key factor. Empathetic, you really need to be empathetic when it comes to elderly patients because they are older, so they do hurt more than you, so you need to try to understand their pain so you can help them more effectively. And you also need to be focused because unfocused nurse could be very dangerous. Procedures continued. One specific procedure completed by a geriatric nurse is checking the fingerstick capillary blood glucose levels, which is basically saying checking your blood sugar. Detailed steps are included on the document attached labeled procedure. I won't go through it all, it's about 20 steps, but they are listed in detail on my document labeled procedure. Overall, geriatric nursing is a special field that many men and women participate in every day. Although it may seem like a lot to handle, the procedures found in a geriatric nurse's everyday schedule are focused, effective, and most of all, completed with respect and caring towards their geriatric patients. So, an explanation of my technical procedure of how I constructed the document, I had to complete 4 steps. So, first I read and understood the instructions and wrote up a plan to keep me on track. I also referred to chapter 20 in the textbook. It gave me a lot of information concerning how to correctly write up a procedure. I then began gathering information concerning my technical procedure, looking up, the correct ways to take a blood sugar as a geriatric nurse. I also made sure I was citing my sources along the way, so I didn't forget, like the other 2 documents. I put all the information together next in a Word document according to APA standards, and gathered pictures at this point to give my document a little something extra. Lastly, I went over my document and made any changes to it as needed, spelling or technical errors. And it looks like we came to our works cited. This one was the works cited for all 3 documents. So that seems about it. That's my Let's Get Technical Geriatric Nursing. Thank you.